Hi! I am back again. I did take another bit of a break. I feel like life has just been a little bit crazy at the moment, and like work life and social life, and there's just a lot going on, so I feel like finding the time to do YouTube has been a little bit hard at the moment, but I've missed it. So I wanted to film a quick little video today, and hopefully I can get back into the swing of posting more regularly because I really do miss it. So I have also let my reading suffer a little bit with just everything that's been going on. I have been reading, but not as much as I usually would. But the books I have been reading have been thrillers. So I felt like today was a perfect day to come on and talk about 5 thrillers that I've read recently that I've really enjoyed. I just kind of went on a bit of a thriller buzz. I am currently actually reading a romance, so I seem to be kind of dipping back out, but I had like a whole month there where I read absolutely nothing but thriller books. It's all I wanted, and I found some really good books along the way, and I just wanted to come on and share the ones that I read. So I have 5 recommendations for you today, 2 of which are actually by the same author. So I feel like that's a really good sign. I mean, I really enjoyed one of her books and then enjoyed it so much that I picked up another like almost straight away after finishing the first. And yeah, every book that I'm going to talk about today I either rated 4 or 5 stars, which is pretty impressive. And I have been having a very good reading month when I have been reading. So all of the books I have been reading I've been loving, which has been an absolute bonus. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into some thriller book recommendations. So first up, I'm going to start with the author that I ended up reading 2 of her books back to back, and that is Andrea Mara. She actually featured in my authors recommend me books to read video, so I was very excited to read some of her books. I initially picked up No One Saw a Thing, which I was approved for on NetGalley, so I actually read this on my Kindle, but then I was since sent a copy when it was released, which was so exciting because I absolutely love this book, so I know that this will be going on my forever shelf. I feel like I might have spoke about this book in another video, maybe in one of my wrap-ups, but I'm just going to give you like a little brief of what it's about anyway. So this book is about an Irish family, but it's actually based in London. So this family are over in London, like visiting friends and whatnot. And one morning, the woman of the couple takes her 3 kids, so she has 2 small children and a baby, and she's taking them into the city. So they go to board the tube, and as she's trying to get like the buggy on the tube, the kids have already boarded, and then the doors close before she can get on with her pram, and it takes off. And obviously in an absolute panic, she hops on the next train, she alerts the security guards, who then alert the other security guards at the next station stop, and she goes straight there. And when she gets there, only one of her kids have gotten off the train, the other has vanished. This obviously has a missing child. She's in the middle of London, unfamiliar with her surroundings. The child that got off of the tube is too young to verbally explain where her sister is. She says a few words and a few hints that you kind of have to decipher throughout the story, but overall you have absolutely no idea who took the child. So yeah, it's a bit of a like whodunit, where's the kid, what's going on. You don't really know much of the characters in this because obviously the couple are over visiting friends, but the friends are friends of the husband, so the wife is completely suspicious of everyone, as are we. But this was so much fun. It was a really fun concept. I feel like there is nothing more like stressful than things like this where kids go missing. I feel like it's such a high like adrenaline read because I feel like there's just like it's one of the worst scenarios where you're like, where's the kid? I couldn't figure this one out. There was so many twists and turns, there was so many reveals, and like just it's really well written. It also does a lot of hopping back and forth, and each chapter is titled with a time, so it's like the time counting the amount of hours that this child has been missing. There's also flashbacks and flash forwards, so you're kind of thrown in and getting bits and bobs of clues from here and there. But yeah, I just thought this was so good. I rated this one 5 stars. I just really enjoyed it. It was a really quick read. It was one of those thrillers where you pick it up and you can just like binge it in one go. Like, I totally recommend if you have a holiday this summer and you're looking for a thriller to get immersed in, like, pick this one up, because you just won't be able to put it down. So that was the first Andrea Mara that I picked up, and that obviously left such a good impression that like a couple of weeks later I ended up picking up Hide and Seek, which was actually released before No One Saw a Thing, and I've had this on my shelf for quite a while. It's a very pretty hardback, quite a lovely pink spine, and I was just like, I need another good thriller. I really enjoyed the writing style of that one, so I picked this one up. This one is set in like a suburb in Dublin, and like a couple of years ago a child called Sophie disappeared. So her and her friends were out playing on the green, and next thing you know, Sophie is gone. There's a massive search, like everybody in the neighbourhood is looking for her, and she's never found. Fast forward, and we're following Joanna in this book, who has moved into Sophie's house. So she is staying in the house where the little girl who went missing once lived. She is not from the area, but her husband is. So when she moves in and she starts speaking to the locals and she finds out about Sophie's disappearance, she's obviously very curious. She starts asking questions, and she soon realises there's a lot more people like covering up things or not willing to speak about things than is like normal. So she's asking her husband, and he's also a little bit cagey, like you're not quite sure, but it's like everybody just doesn't want to speak of that day, whether it's for trauma reasons or whether they're like covering shit up. So anyway, Joanna hyper fixates on this case, and also you don't fully find out, but you get flashbacks to something that happened Joanna in her childhood that has her so fascinated with Sophie's disappearance. So there's a bit of a connection there between her own childhood and what happened to Sophie, and she basically is finding it impossible to let this go. Like everyone's like, stop digging, leave it go, she's gone, but she doesn't. And yeah, so we're just going along the journey with Joanna as she's digging to find out what happened. It's juicy, it's gossipy, there's so much depth to every character. Like you get a real insight into the neighbourhood and everybody who lives there, and all of the characters and their kind of backgrounds and who they're with, and it's really good, and it flashes between past and present. So you're reading Joanna's point of view, and then you're also reading the point of view of when Sophie was alive or around the time where she disappeared. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I think I actually like this one a little bit more than No One Saw a Thing, and that was simply just because of how this book wraps up, which is always a bonus. Like there's nothing better than a book with a good ending that just leaves you super satisfied, and I really had that with this. So yeah, Andrea Mara, I feel like I just have had a really good time reading her books lately, and I have already looked into reading her backlist, because when I was raving about these on my Instagram, I had a lot of people message me some of her other books that were like, well, if you enjoyed this, like, you need to read this. So yeah, like if you love a good thriller, especially one with missing child tropes, then Andrea Mara's got you covered. The next one was just kind of like a comfort read for me. Do you ever have like a specific type of book in a genre that's just your like cozy comfort? Well, for me it's like those like classic like Agatha Christie like whodunit murder mysteries. I just feel like they're like the coziest books to like snuggle up under your duvet in evenings and read, and I knew that this author was a good one to go to for that, and this was one of her newer books, so I picked that up, and that is Not a Happy Family by Shari Lapena. So I've read pretty much, I think, almost all of her backlist, apart from, I think there's a book called A Stranger in the House. But yeah, that's the only one I have left. And so far for me, I just really enjoy her books. Like I find them to be such a comfort. This one is about a family, a very kind of broken, wealthy, rich family who all meet for Easter dinner. And whilst they're at Easter dinner, their parents announce some shocking news. There's quite a few bits, but one of the big one being that they're selling their home. And the kids, there's 3 kids, have all, they're grown up by the way, but they have all kind of held out hope that they would be left the house or the estate or the money, etc. in the will once their parents eventually pass away. So to hear that their parents are selling up everything is quite shocking. The story then starts the day after Easter Sunday when the maid/cleaner arrives at the house to find both the parents brutally murdered in their house. And it then begins, like, who did it? Because every single one of the children have a vendetta against their parents. They all have something that they are upset about or would have had motive to kill. But you also find a lot more characters in this story who also could have had motives, because this couple were not very nice and not very well liked in their community. So it's just a whodunit, and you're following all of the point of view. So every chapter is told from a different, like, child's point of view. So all of them, you get a bit of a back insight into all of them, and you're suspecting all of them, and you also get to see their partner's point of views. And I just love those books that, like, keep swapping, so you're just constantly kept on edge, because every time you end a chapter you immediately want to get back to that person's point of view, but you have to go to the next person's. I love that. So I ended up rating this 4 out of 5, because the ending, as you go through it, I feel like sometimes when you read quite a lot of, like, those whodunit murder mysteries, they become a little bit more predictable. This one wasn't so much for me, but I did kind of figure out parts of it, and that's the only reason I didn't rate it 5-star. But it was a solid 4-star read for me, like a perfect cozy murder mystery. And if you enjoy Shari Lapena, or you enjoy those kind of murder mysteries, like those cozy whodunit ones, then I would highly recommend this. Then I have one that's actually been on my TBR for so long, and I was really kicking myself that I left it this long to read it, and that is The Appeal by Janice Hallett. This was such an interesting book. Like, I've never read a book quite formatted like this one. So this book from front to back is mixed media. Like, I don't know if you can tell that. It's all like emails and text messages, and it is the most speedy thriller ever. Like, I flew through this. I think I read this in 2 sittings, and it looks like quite a chunky book, and I think it is, like, yeah, it's over 450 pages. So don't let the size put you off, even though I know 450 pages is not a huge book. But if you're intimidated by chunky books like I am, don't let it put you off this one, because you will speed through this so quickly. So this one is based in, like, a small community that are planning to run a play. So they seem to kind of have, like, a drama society that hold yearly productions of, like, plays that they perform. And they are auditioning for this year's play. There is a new couple that have just moved to the neighbourhood, and one of the people that's in, like, this drama society decides to persuade them to come and join, because they think that it would be, like, a really good way to kind of get into the community, get to know the people, and really, like, settle in. Because this entire book is read through emails, you're also following 2 detectives, and you're kind of reading these emails with them. So they found out that there's been a murder somewhere between the beginning of this play, like where they're holding the auditions, to the end of the play when it's actually performed. So it's somewhere in between that timeline, somebody has passed away. Yeah, and you're with them as they read through the emails. So it's kind of like you're getting to be a nosy detective too, like sifting through everybody's emails. But what's really fun about this is that the emails are not always corresponding. So there's some emails that are missing, there's some replies that are missing, and that's where you kind of have to use your head and, like, figure out what's going on. But oh my god, the drama in this book. Like, this was like a thriller mixed with, like, an episode of what, like, I remember Desperate Housewives used to be. It was so juicy, so gossipy. There was so many, like, complex characters, not all of which I liked, but I really like that in a story when there's characters that you dislike, because I feel like that means the character was written well if they can come true to you so much that you actually physically dislike them. And that was definitely the case with this book. There is a few characters in here that are seriously questionable, but yeah, it was such a fun, cozy mystery book, and I've never read anything quite like it, and it's making me so excited to pick up more of Janice's books because I've heard her other books are also done in this kind of format, and it was just something really fresh and new, and it was definitely the kind of book that I would recommend if you're in any kind of reading slump, because it's just so different and it's such a quick read. You literally can't help but to speed through it. So yeah, I rated this one 5 stars because I thought it was really fun and unique. I did figure out some of the plot points towards the end, but the grand reveal definitely still shocked me, so yeah. And then my last recommendation for today is actually a YA thriller. I read this in one sitting because I couldn't put it down, but I just find sometimes when I'm also in like a slump or not in the mood to read anything too heavy, like YA thrillers are perfect because they're normally pretty easy to read, but they still have that like dark eeriness to them, which I loved. So I picked up Someone Is Watching You. Look how creepy this little cover is. I actually only bought this book like not too long ago, maybe like 2 or 3 months ago. It's a small enough book, it's only about 300 pages. This one is set around our main character Nia, and she is currently grounded for staying out with friends and just not following her parents' rules and curfew and whatnot. So as her punishment, on a weekend, instead of hanging out with her friends, her mother insists that she has to come with her to a child's soft play area to take her little sister out for the day. When they get there, she's already a bit like hesitant because she thinks it's really creepy because the child's soft play centre is based in what used to be a prison. So now part of this building is an abandoned prison and the other half of it is a children's soft play area. When I was reading this, I was like, that's the only part of this story that I'm finding a little bit far-fetched, because why the hell would a children's soft play area be put into an abandoned prison? And that wasn't until I got to the acknowledgements where I read that this author, Tess James Mackey, she actually was inspired to write this story whilst she was sat in a children's soft play centre with her daughter that was like built in an abandoned prison. So that's actually true, which I feel like adds 10 times more like creepiness to this story. But anyway, whilst Nia is there, she is getting loads of texts from her friends. She has this new boyfriend, Scott, who she's really trying to impress, and I feel like this book really like embodies like what it's like to go through puberty and to try and impress like your first boyfriend, and the fact that you literally do anything just to fit in when in reality you shouldn't, and you should just allow people to like you for who you are. But in this case, Nia is really trying to impress her new boyfriend Scott and his group of friends, who are not the kindest people. They're kind of known as like the mean people in school, particularly the girls. So when they find out that she is in this place with her mother, they're like daring her to go and explore the abandoned prison and whatnot, even though she's supposed to be watching her baby sister. In a bid to try and impress her friends though, she does go and do that. She starts exploring the prison and going into the abandoned part of the building that is clearly off limits and you're not supposed to explore, but she finds a way to break into there, not knowing that her baby sister has followed her, as baby sisters do. They just want to be with their big sister, they just want to be with them all the time. And yeah, she's obviously angry. She's like, why did you follow me? But at the same time she's like, just give me 5 minutes and let me go take some pictures to prove I was here to send to her boyfriend and her friends. She does that, and when she turns around, her little sister is gone. She is vanished, and I feel like there's actually a real theme of missing children along these books that I've read, and that was not intentional. I'm only realising that now. But yeah, the story takes a dark turn. Like, this is very dark for a YA, so definitely maybe look up the trigger warnings for this if you're planning to read this, especially if you are within the YA target audience. But yeah, I found it really dark, really creepy, couldn't put it down, literally read it in one sitting. It is a very, very quick read, but really good. I feel like it has some really good messages in there. It really portrays puberty and the social pressures that you go through when you're at that time in your life or that age in your life. And yeah, I just really, really enjoyed it, and I really will look forward to picking up more of this author's work, because I feel like this actually kind of like bordered into like thriller horror a little bit. Like, there's the descriptions of the abandoned prison and the places she's exploring in this are very creepy, and I read it at night and it did make me be like what's going on. So yeah, highly recommend. So those are my 5 thrillers that I've read recently that I would highly recommend. I feel like I'm racking up some very, very good books in 2023 so far, and I was just excited to share some of these with you. So feel free in the comments below to recommend me some thrillers that you might have read or loved recently, because I feel like no matter what I end up reading or what I'm in the mood for, like thrillers just always end up being my go-to fallback comfort reads. So I'm always more than happy to have more recommendations. But yeah, so it's just a short, quick little video for me today recommending some books that I've been reading and loving lately. I feel like I might try and do a video soon just speaking of like creepy and thriller horror stuff, diving into my Stephen King collection, because I feel like that's not something I've talked about much on here, but I do like to show that off over on my Instagram quite a lot. So if you'd like to see my Stephen King collection, please let me know and I'd be more than happy to share that. But for now, I'll leave that here today. Yeah, leave me all your recommendations in the comments below and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!